Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm on my knees over here. Welcome. Linda gave me a great introduction. She told you about my background, the fact that I have a historic degree or a degree in historic fashion and textiles from URI. The store that we opened, my husband and I, we opened in 2013. And it is a really fun co-op of 3 floors on the east side of Providence. So we get a lot of students from RISD and Brown. It's just really fun. People will come in with all kinds of color hair, you know, like purple, green. And my husband will say, oh, it's purple hair day. You get a discount. So it's really fun. But today I'm here to talk about Downton Abbey. And I try to keep it alive by doing these presentations. Although I do presentations about a lot of other eras, such as Mad Men, cocktail culture, the Gilded Age, that kind of thing. This is one of the favorites out there. People seem to love this because they love the show. And it brings back to life our favorite characters. How many of you watched the show through all 6 seasons? Oh, well. I don't have to worry about you not knowing people. That's a good thing. Real quickly, why do I have a picture of an Elizabethan manor-style house? This is not the original Highclere Castle, which is the real Downton Abbey, but it is a type like the one that it was originally, which is Elizabethan. And then from this point, this is the real Highclere Castle before its last renovation. And this was more of a Georgian style, which was, you know, in fashion at the time, late 18th century, early 19th century. And, you know, if you look at that, you can see what's going to happen in the next slide, right? In 1842, they started building the Highclere Castle, or the Downton Abbey as we know now, and it took them 12 years to build the house. And there you go. So you can see. Why do you think it had the those steeples and those points? What was up? How come? Do you have any idea? Why would the architect pick that style? Yes?
Wi-Fi.
I wish! Excellent.
Did it have anything to do with lightning rod? A lightning rod?
No, well, I'm sure it didn't hurt. It was lightning. But it's because the Gothic style was in vogue at that time when they built it, right around like Queen Victoria's crowning time, right around that time, early Victorian. So that's why it looks like that. Now, this is the 8th Earl and Countess of Carnarvon, and she wrote a couple of books. One of them is on Lady Almina, who you will meet in a second. And Almina was the 5th Countess of Carnarvon, and sort of mildly was the inspiration for our Cora, right? So we can kind of see similarities in the real life versus the Downton Abbey version. She wrote another book about a woman named Catherine Wendell, who was from Kittery, Maine. And Catherine married Almina's son. So the real 5th Countess of Carnarvon, her son, who you'll meet, married this woman from Kittery, Maine. So it's very interesting. So she wrote a book on her as well. And here's Almina. Almina has kind of an interesting past. She didn't come from a ton of money. She was married, she was the daughter of a woman named Marie Wombwell. And Marie was married to an alcoholic man. She was very unhappy, obviously. So she started to have an affair with Alfred de Rothschild, which I'm sure that name might mean a little bit of money to you. And they had this daughter, and he never admitted it was his daughter, but it was a very easy thing to figure out because, for one thing, he doted on her, you know, the whole time he was alive, gave her everything she needed, enough so that she was able to become part of society because she had the right clothes and the jewels and all of that. The other reason we know it's his child with Marie is because Alfred, and Mina was Marie's nickname her whole life, so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that was probably the child of Alfred. So that's in her beautiful regalia. She was a lovely woman, and here's the man. So I don't think they ever married, but she was definitely, you know, kind of hanging out with him for quite a while. This is another interesting part of the real story, is the 5th Earl of Carnarvon helped Howard Carter, especially financially, in the discovery of the King Tut's tomb, which you know was in 1922. And he not only helped him financially, but he was fascinated with Egypt. And he used to drag Almina over there a lot, too. So many times she went with him, all dressed up, mind you, to go out there and look and start digging for things. So he was instrumental in that. Unfortunately, he died not many months after the discovery of that. I think he had some kind of a bug bite that got worse and worse, and I think he developed pneumonia. So he died in 1923. But he was a main part of that discovery. That's Almina with her son, Porchy, who married Catherine Wendell. He would become the 6th Earl. And why was he called Porchy? Anybody want to take a guess? Porchester. Very good. You get a pen. I just don't want to throw it to you. The Earl of Porchester. You know, when you look back on history with royalty, they never, the noble families, they never call them by their real names. It's always whatever. So say Northumberland. Would be, you know, instead of, let's say his name was George, it would be Northumberland instead, Norfolk, that kind of thing. So it's the same with Porchy, but he's only a baby there. This is the wedding of Porchy and Catherine Wendell. And I'd like to point this out because look at the skirts are getting shorter, even for formal wear. So the wedding gown and the hats, the big picture hats that were very important at the time.
Excuse me, is Porchy the guy next to the woman standing with the flowers? Where is Porchy?
I think Porchy is right next to her, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's the guy with the mustache. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah, he's got the carnation.
Okay.
I think
it's the carnation.
Yeah. There you are. There's your friend you've been waiting for. I do go through the seasons. I try not to linger too long, again, so you won't be here forever. But these people, we really, I don't know about you, but didn't you feel that they were your friends for all of those seasons? And I love that what the best part about it was that they brought the downstairs to life as well. It wasn't just all about the wealthy people, although that's fascinating. We got to see the real problems that the help had as well. So you can see this is a 2012 style, and you know, very kind of drab for the help, but of course for wealthy socialites and you know, princesses in a way, you know, they really were decked out, as well as of course Cora. And you can't see well in this picture, but the dowager is not dressed the way they are. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. This is the real cast of characters from the real servants from Downton Abbey. So it's fun to kind of look, you can sort of pick out the characters, like you can kind of see Thomas over there, and Mrs. Patmore might show up over there, and I can see Mrs. Patmore, she's right there. There's O'Brien. No. Okay, I have to show you what went on right before the period of Downton Abbey. I always do this with any era. Picture yourselves, ladies. I know there's some gentlemen in the audience. Just thank God you never had a dress like this. You see this corset? That was called the S-bend, and this was during the Edwardian period. The Edwardian period was from 1901 to 10, after Queen Victoria's successor died, King Edward. So the style at the time was to force the breasts forward and force the rear end back, which is painful even for 2 seconds when I do it, believe me. So, and if you can see right here, it's boned all the way down. So I don't know how. Picture yourself in these chairs with that on. Now, a lady wasn't supposed to touch her back to the chair anyway, and I'm sure she couldn't have if she wanted to. The rear end was in the way, so she couldn't. What it did was it caused this look, as you can see. This is the same costume without the corset. And this is the look they wanted, okay? Without the extreme S, this is what you see the dowager in. She's still in her old dress from the period before because she's an older woman. She's not going to wear her granddaughter's styles. So here you go. Okay, another lovely sight here on the left. You're seeing the woman in that same S-curve. That's a walking or promenade outfit. Keep in mind, in these earlier periods, whenever an important guest was coming to a house like Downton Abbey or Highclere Castle, let's say the Prince of Wales was coming, which he did, ladies invited to that particular week or set of days or whatever it was were expected to have at least 4 changes of costume, at least. Morning dress for breakfast and, you know, hanging at the house, walking or promenade dress or costume, Gibson Girl, I know you're familiar with Gibson Girl. Charles Dana Gibson was an illustrator, and he really drew these beautiful images of, I think he had at least one daughter, and maybe he illustrated his wife too, but I think it was his daughter. And the pompadour hairdo was very popular. That was the standard of beauty for this time. And this is called a shirtwaist. This is what we were looking at earlier with this piece right here. That's a shirtwaist, or blouse as we think of it, with a skirt. Now, this period, really, you started to see that in the 1890s when sports became more important for ladies. You started to see this more casual look in a way. Even though the skirt was to the floor, they were only wearing a blouse with it. So that was a big step. And then this is a tea gown you're seeing here. And by the way, see these collars? They're probably boned. Many times they were. So picture yourself, not only are you walking around, I don't know. I don't know how they didn't just get rid of those designers who were designing these pieces. And this lady looks very happy. That good hairdo. She's very proud of her little silhouette there. And then this is what we think of, again, not with that big curve, but violet. Think about the Dowager. That was very typical of what you'd see her in on a regular basis. And there she is. And this is what I was talking about. This cut work, that's everywhere in this period. And she's wearing that under her Victorian. This is not Victorian, it's really Edwardian. That's what we're talking about. So that's one step below this, yeah. Because what happened was after this, you started to see a straighter line come across. And that's what you see on Lady Mary. And the waistline started to creep up a little bit. This gentleman was responsible for that change, or not all of it, some of it. Paul Poiret was a designer quite ahead of his time. He was very into the ballet russe, the Diaghilev's ballet russe, and they had very colorful oriental costumes. And he used those colors and those kind of funky designs for his ladies. This is called the lampshade dress. I wonder why. A lot of turbans, a lot of, big headbands with feathers, that kind of thing. This skirt is very kind. He designed something much narrower than this called the hobble skirt. So it was so narrow at the bottom, the lady would have to take little steps. So he claims to free women from corsets, which say he didn't. The corset just became a little bit less severe. But he certainly gave them a problem at the bottom. They couldn't walk. Maybe they were breathing better, but they couldn't walk very easily. So they're always holding us back. And that scene, I'm sure you remember, with Sybil when she's shocked. Look at Carson's face. And this was one of Poiret's costumes, again, based on the ballet russe. So I think that's what she was trying to show. It must have been based on his design. And she has the headband, too. But trousers, these are called Turkish trousers. Women didn't wear those. There's another story that they did at one point, some of them, in the middle of the 19th century. We don't have time to go into that. This is the new line. This is when you think about the Titanic, because that was my first presentation, was in 2012, with the year anniversary of Titanic. But you're seeing that high waistline and a much straighter, not that severe curve at all. And there they are. And you can see that all those evening dresses are in the same thing that we've just been talking about. A lot of layers and a lot of sheer pieces. This is a reproduction, this dress. I've had this since 2012, and I love it because it's very comfortable. But it's very similar because it has these layers.
1912.
1912, that's right.
You're saying 2012.
Oh, did I do that again? You're going to have to throw something at me next time, will you? I'm stuck on it.
Yes.
I got married in 2012. Maybe that's what it is. But no, I don't know, whatever. This, especially Edith's, she has a very plain under dress there that's just one color, and that's what this is. And then over it goes these legs. This is very common to this period, and they look great. Look at Mary, stiff as ever, but we love her anyway. And then there's summer wear, and this is just to show you, even though the styles and silhouettes were the same, they use lighter fabrics. I mean, they got to have something absorbent with the corseting and everything. So cotton and linen, of course, would have been good fabrics for the summer. And summer straw hats as opposed to the heavier hats we see in the winter. Even the Earl has a straw hat on. This is the corset. Almost, I get that question almost every time, and it's a good one. She said, no, that's a good question. How did they clean these things? Don't forget they had maids, and you've seen them do the shoes and all that. They wore a lot of undergarments, and those undergarments were washable. And that's what got washed more than anything else. When you see what they call a valet, which I think of as valet, but valet brushing down the Earl's jacket, that's a lot of what you'd get, because they didn't have, you couldn't drive to the dry cleaners, or so a lot of it I think they spot cleaned, but they could actually launder the undergarments. It's a really good question. Yes, and even the corsets could be protected. You've got the undergarment, which is called actually a chemise underneath, then the cami or the corset cover over it. So it would give that protection against the outer dress. If you saw that movie Titanic, Kate Winslet's character, Rose, was being laced very harshly by her mother in a corset very much like that. So you can see it covers the hips to give that straight line. That's why. Corsets, that's what it did. It formed the body to the desired shape. These petticoats are very slim, because you can't have a big old petticoat like we used to, or they used to, and then that nice slim skirt. This is called a corset cover. I was just talking about that. That would be a protection over the corset, and then the dress would go over that, okay? I loved this dress, and it reminds me, it's so typical of the period, and it just reminds me so much of Lady Mary's. You can't see it well because it's a dark color, but that same kind of a sleeve, very kind of filmy, and same lines, and there's a big cummerbund belt just like this. It's just a little bit lower on her. Notice the hats. The hats are huge. The hats are crazy. They have sometimes whole birds up there, but at least some feathers. And I have a wonderful one that I bought at a vintage auction, same one that I got the tea gown, but I've carried it every time I've done these, and now it needs some, talk about TLC. It's starting to get, not even the feathers, those are still intact. It's the brim that's starting to kind of come apart, and nobody's abused it. You know, I let people touch things. It's just, it's getting tired. So I'm trying to kind of give it a rest and give it some TLC first. Is this a little bit, is it a little bit blurry to you? Is that better? There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's right. The lampshade went to the head. That's a good one. Exactly. These shoes, I have a similar pair. Look at that's all metallic beading, ladies. They don't make them like they used to. I mean, let's face it. These shoes, I also have a pair of walking boots up here that you need to see. They're about this wide, and so are these. These shoes have a different strap, but very similar metallic beading on them, and they are from this period, and the heel, that Louis heel, was still important, and Louis heels are very comfortable. I'll tell you right now, that's probably why that stuck around for so long. I have reproduction boots on. They're not, but they're, and they zip, so that's cheating, even though they have the tie. And they have the Louis heel. They're like slippers. It's my third pair. I've been through 3 pairs. That's how much I love them. I wear them all the time. So that's one set of shoes. The boots are probably from a little bit earlier, probably around the turn of the century, and they're lace up, and they're very narrow. So I don't know what happened to our feet, but I'm not fitting into any of those. I don't know about you. And then finally, fur trim was very big. You know, we look at that differently now in our store. We sell very little real fur unless it's so old. I always say if it died before I was born, I can't feel guilty. The coat I have is from the late 40s, and it's got a real mink collar, but I didn't kill it. I'm recycling it, right? But we did have some of those nasty collars when we first opened that somebody brought in. Now picture it, 1960, I don't know what it was, but the older women were still wearing these. I was brought up Catholic, so I'm going to communion, little innocent me going to communion. Yeah. And right in front of me is this animal on the woman's coat that's biting the tail of the other one, and its beady eyes are staring at me. So the whole time I'm like this. That's what you see here. Those are whole animals, folks, big animals. And they even show you the ones they're going to use. So anyway, think of it this way. It was a different time. Every tail, this is a tail of an animal, every one of these. You see this a lot on the kings and queens. Think about Henry VIII and Elizabeth. Okay, I told you that the fifth Earl died in 1923, and it was shortly after this. This was the Ascot. He and his wife, that's Almina. This is Catherine and Porchy.
Oh, there's more than one reason he was called Porchy.
Totally.
He got a little, should have been Paunchy. Poor Porchy. Okay, this just quickly is 1915, but it's the hat's still big. Look at all the feathers up there and ribbons. I just ordered a reproduction, but it's going to take a long time to come in. It's a big hat with feathers and ribbons and everything all over it. But it's going to take a while to come in. There's her fur, and there's her very stiff-looking collar, which was probably boned. And that's probably why she has that expression on her face, very uncomfortable. And then World War I is season 2. This is when it starts moving faster. Season 2, look at the looseness on Lavinia and even on Isabel. It's changed enough during the war, just like it will during any wartime. Comfort is more important, plus they have shortages. So the skirt hems rise, they're using different fabrics, and a lot of the women were doing men's jobs, especially women who didn't have much money. And so they are in looser looking garments. And then of course, Highclere, as well as Downton, was used as a hospital during World War I. So that style is not my favorite, but it was there for a reason. And then one other important point, whenever the hemlines rise, footwear becomes more important, even stockings, because it shows. That's a lovely dress. I don't know what it is about that. I think it's horrible. But, it was probably the best thing since sliced bread for these ladies because it was comfortable for the first time after what they'd come out of. And then the military influence is always evident. And of course, the hats are much, much smaller and more practical. No birds on these babies. There's our Violet, still in her Edwardian garb. But look at, even Cora is in the latest style from this period. And Mary as well. And there's our hunting crew. And although the women are still in skirts, they're in much more comfortable looking outfits for being outdoors. So a looser type jacket, and then the not quite the cloche hat of the 20s, but getting towards that. And then the men in the, imagine going hunting in your shirt and tie and waistcoat. If they didn't, they would be considered in a state of undress. Do you remember the line? And if the videos will work for me, which we're hoping for a miracle, I can even pull it up on YouTube. There's one point where I think it's Shirley MacLaine's character says to Robert, because he's in black tie, and she said, "Oh, you're dressed for a barbecue," because the white tie was the most formal, and it was shocking to see someone at dinner with black tie. So interesting. You've seen this picture, but of course we know the story of Lavinia and our friend Matthew. How mad were you when Sybil and Matthew died?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
my favorite character was Sybil till they killed her off, and then Matthew. Everybody loved Matthew. How could you not? Oh God. Okay. I'll tell you what, and it'll be worth it. If I can only show one video, this is the one we have to see. So if I can't get it on here, we can get it on YouTube.
It's a complication. Robert Crawley is the Earl of Grey. His mother, the Dowager Countess. His wife, Cora, an American heiress who gave him 3 daughters, Mary, Edith, and Sybil. She did not give him a son. No. Did not. Heir to Robert's estate, James, and his son Patrick just went down with the Titanic. Now, his oldest daughter Mary, once engaged to Patrick, has no inheritance, and Cora's fortune will go to the new heir, Lord Grafton's third cousin once removed, Matthew Crawley.
A complete unknown has the right to pocket my money, along with the rest of the swag.
Matthew is not happy either.
I don't see why I couldn't just refuse it.
Meanwhile, downstairs, the staff adjusts to the arrival of John Bates,
New valet.
who was injured in the war. Most of the staff, Carson, Mrs. Hughes, Mrs. Patmore, Daisy, Anna, and William, are simply surprised by his arrival, but others, like Thomas and O'Brien, are downright rude. Matthew and his mother Isabel arrive.
Welcome to Downton.
Mary and Matthew get off on the wrong foot.
The whole thing is a complete joke.
So do Mrs. Crawley and the Dowager Countess.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Cora thinks Mary should wed Matthew,
Can't be serious.
but then a dashing Turkish diplomat named Kamal Pamuk visits town.
Lady Mary Crawley, I presume.
Mary flirts with Pamuk. Pamuk seduces Mary, then dies in her bed. Mary enlists Anna and her mother to help cover it up. Daisy It's 1913. Anna starts a friendship with Bates. Lord Grantham hires a new chauffeur, a socialist named Branson. He encourages Lady Sybil's feminist leanings. Anna tells Bates how she feels,
Lovely, Mr. Bates.
but he rejects her.
I'm not a free man.
It's 1914. Sir Anthony Strachan arrives to court Mary. Mary isn't interested until Edith is.
Is that a challenge?
Edith is angry. Daisy tells her about Mary and Farouk, and then Edith writes the ambassador in Turkey, setting up rumors that force Cora to confess to the Dowager Countess. Matthew and Mary talk. They kiss. He proposes.
Oh, my darling.
But Mary wants to tell him her secret.
Oh.
Bates reconsiders his relationship with Anna. Almost. Cora is pregnant.
Pregnant.
O'Brien orchestrates an accident, then regrets
What a
it,
witch.
but too late.
Just wait.
It was a boy.
Mary finally accepts Matthew's proposal, but he questions her motives.
So I've ruined everything.
He leaves. Troubling news reaches Downton Abbey.
We are at war with Germany.
2 years later, it's 1916, and Matthew Crawley is on the front lines. He returns to Downton on leave with his new fiancée, Miss Lavinia Swire.
What?
Bates proposes to Anna. She says yes. Then his wife shows up and threatens to expose the Farouk scandal. Unless he leaves Downton Abbey, he gives in. It's 1917. William enlists.
And then you could go to war.
Mrs. Patmore convinces Daisy to pretend to be his sweetheart.
You can't let him go to war with a broken heart.
Anna goes to see Bates.
It won't be long now.
Then Lord Grantham convinces him to return to Downton. Sir Richard Carlisle arrives and proposes to marry.
I think very highly of you.
It's not very romantic.
Very highly. Goodness.
She still loves Matthew, but she knows it's over.
If he died, I don't think I could go on living.
Downton Abbey is turned into a hospital for wounded soldiers. Sybil is a nurse, Mary and Edith tend to patients. It's an adjustment. It's 1918. Matthew and William are declared missing in battle. Branson asks Sybil to run away with him.
You're in love with me.
Mary finds out.
God in heaven.
Matthew returns in time to sing a duet.
Such wonderful things to do.
And now I've seen everything.
A terrible blast. Matthew is paralyzed.
You mean there can be no children?
He wants Lavinia to move on. William is dying. He wants Daisy to marry him immediately. But she does. William dies hours later. Bates' wife comes back with new threats about exposing the Farouk scandal. Mary asks Sir Richard to save her reputation.
I know everything that goes on in this city.
Sir Richard is jealous of Matthew and threatens Mary with exposure.
Don't ever cross me.
At last, the war is over. Bates comes back from meeting his wife. A telegram arrives.
His wife's dead.
The plot thickens.
It's 1919. Matthew feels a
Tingling in my legs.
Then Lavinia trips, and Matthew stands to help her.
My God.
He will make a full recovery. They announce their re-engagement.
All this unbridled joy has given me quite an appetite.
Bates' wife may have committed suicide with poison he purchased.
Have you told the police?
He hasn't. Sybil tries to run away with Branson.
I think this is mad. Sneak off like a thief in the night.
Her sisters drag her back. Sybil and Branson announce their plans to the family.
I will not allow my daughter to throw away her life.
It doesn't go well. Matthew and Mary share a moment after dinner. Lavinia walks in.
What are you doing now?
The Spanish flu strikes Downton Abbey. Lavinia is sick and believes Matthew may still love Mary.
For my sake.
Lavinia dies.
It's been cursed, you and I.
Bates and Anna marry. They share one happy night. Then
Are you looking for me?
he is arrested for his wife's murder and found
Guilty.
Cora confesses to Lord Grantham about the Farouk scandal.
Any guest who is found dead in his bed.
Well, that's the thing.
He consoles Mary,
I want a good man for you.
which gives her the courage to tell Matthew.
I never could despise you.
Mary breaks up with Sir Richard.
My God, Mary.
Matthew defends her. Sir Richard leaves for
Do
good.
you promise?
Matthew proposes to Mary. Again,
Lady Mary Crawley, will you do me the honor of becoming my wife?
she accepts.
So post-war, you're going to start to see two things happen, mainly, is the skirt's going to start to rise, as we know, and the waistline is going to come down. And it's even going to get looser. I have a dress from around this period, almost exactly, and has those like kind of filmy layers and all the embroidery, make sure you notice that, and about 10,000 hooks and eyes. I tried this on when I first bought it. I don't wear it because these pieces are too fragile to wear. I don't feel comfortable with that. But to be able to show it to all of you, they're not going to a museum. I collect them just to bring here so that you can touch, because I couldn't touch any of the costumes at URI. You had to wear white gloves, which is understandable. The oils from your hands can damage the fibers. So I tried this on. It took me about 20 minutes to get all the hooks and eyes in the right places. So that's why they needed maids. You know, it's understandable. But the detail in one dress is amazing. And look at the color. I mean, there's the green underneath, and then that vibrant blue. Okay. There's our flapper. Okay. Who in Downton Abbey was kind of a flapper? Rose. There you go. Good one. Not every woman was a flapper in the 20s. We always picture the 20s as having all flappers. But the younger people especially, of course you know why. They were liberated as far as getting the right to vote. They were, excuse me, they were happy to be able to kind of do their own thing now. So cut their hair into the bob style, wear their skirts shorter, sometimes rouge their knees, and roll their stockings down, wear more lipstick. Prior to this period, not that cosmetics were never used, but they were used very subtly, and they were only really thought to be acceptable on women of ill repute or people in theater. So by this point, makeup became okay. And what is wonderful is I have an actual kit. This is called a carry-all. And this goes into the 50s. I have one from the 50s too. And I saw them in Harper's Bazaar for this month. A couple of different ads for some of the top designers have these coming back with makeup and lipstick on top. The ones I have from the 50s have the lipstick over here on the side. You open it up, and it's missing the back metal piece, but that's all brocade. And it's got a little place for maybe a little bit of money, or maybe some of those unfiltered cigarettes they might have been smoking. And then here, if you open this up, is a compact, and it had been used. And the chain, isn't it amazing? It's still intact. Look at it. So that's all you'd need. There were no cell phones. A lady could go out and just enjoy carrying very little with her, unlike the big bags the size of this room that I see today.
Did they carry those or did they wear them?
Both. I've seen them in images attached to, that one's very heavy, so they probably had to carry that. But I've seen them attached, lighter ones attached to their garments. So yeah, I'm sure that they sometimes, because you know, if you're dancing, you don't want to, where you're going to put it. I remember years ago going out dancing, and you always had to worry about that bag. Where are you going to put it? Is somebody going to steal it? Whatever. So they had that same problem. Okay, Coco Chanel was very important during this period. I don't go through, I mean, it would take forever to go through all the important designers, but she was very important because she was one of the first to cut her hair into the bob. She really loved mixing costume jewelry with the real thing. And that's helped us even today to have costume jewelry be so important to us. I know I love it. She worked with jersey knits more than any other designer had, and made beautiful suits that were fitting in with the silhouette, but they were made from jersey knits, so they had some give and stretch. So women could be more comfortable. She believed in very simple elegance. The little black dress in 1926, she had what they kind of termed the Model Ford or the Model T, because it was so ubiquitous. Everybody could wear these black dresses. They were simple enough, and that's true today. You can look at black dresses through the ages, and some of them from way back you could still wear, especially Chanel. Why was suntanning acceptable all of a sudden? She was one of the first ones who kind of made that possible. 20s. What happened? A few things. Okay, more skin showing, right? More outdoor activity and sports. And where was the best place to go dancing? In New York. If you remember, this is Prohibition. And so people in America were going to speakeasies and that kind of thing, or drinking that horrible bathtub gin at home. But if they went out and you lived in New York, it was the jazz era. Where was the best place to go? Yes. Who said that? I can't throw it. Get a pen. Excellent. Harlem. So the ladies wanted to have the darker skin. It's awesome. So, yeah. And think about Josephine Baker. You know, she was gorgeous, and she was, a big, big, important star at that time. Yeah. If you've never seen Midnight in Paris, make sure you see it. About the 20s. It's so charming. Okay. Here's Chanel. Her suits over here with the low belt. And keep in mind, this period, whenever there's any decoration, it's always at hip level. You don't see it anywhere near the natural waist.
What did you do with all of these different costumes if you had a belly?
Well, women, older women especially, would still have some corseting. The younger people might not have. In fact, there was some kind of a club among women where they would actually, before they went dancing, they'd take their corsets off and throw them in a heap or something. Like, it was just like a non-corset club. But older women would wear some support so that they could, wear some of these styles. But you're right. Whenever we see images, we wonder they're not all that shape. Not everybody's different shapes. So they had to have some support. This is the cloche hat I was talking about. This is a reproduction. So I kind of mixed up my decades. That's okay. There's Rose. Don't look at that too many times. You get dizzy. Trust me. But she always was beautiful, and she was, liked to go out and party and have a good time. And there's our wedding that never happened with Lady Edith. The gown is very simple, but keep in mind the 20s, that was the style. And it was probably a very, very expensive silk satin. So no acetate back then. How do you love that purple suit? That's what I think of when I think of a Chanel suit. Jersey knit and very comfortable looking, but beautiful. And then this is called a midi. That was a blouse that women wore in the 20s that would go over their skirt. And there's our dowager looking as happy as ever. She's kind of getting past Edwardian and moving into the next phase for her, but certainly not the 20s. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, I thought you meant Donald. I was going to say, what? Yeah, I thought she looked beautiful. There's Mary, and I wanted to show that because that is an evening dress. So that's short for an evening dress. So for the 20s, that was normal. And I have a beautiful dress, and if you have time before you leave today, it's a real overdress from the 20s. It's all beaded. And I got it at a yard sale. A woman knew that I did this for these presentations, and she said, "I'm going to show you a piece." She took it out, and the problem was it's really from the 20s, but because it was used for theater, it was hanging on a hanger for a long time in a theater department. You can't do that. The beads all, the weight of it. And so there's a lot of shattering you'll see missing, but I'm going to unroll it before we leave so you can see how beautiful the beading work was. Ah, there she is. I wish she'd come back for the last season. They brought everybody else back but her. She must have had another commitment. But she was the antithesis of the Dowager in that totally modern, almost brash, the red hair, the red lipstick, that very current clothing for the time despite her age. She was fun. It's fun to see them together, and there they are. So quite different. She's still in kind of Edwardian there, and here she is in her 20s garb with that lovely face. And then the lady behind Violet is dressed similarly to the Dowager. So, okay, here's our girl again. How different does she look from the other two? So even her daughter almost looks the same age because she's not all made up and colorful. And Mary, I don't know. I can't know what to say about her. She looked good no matter what anyway. Look at the accessories of the period. As you know, in the 20s, the long necklaces became very important. And I had a wonderful reproduction, and it's getting worn looking, so I didn't, nothing lasts like the old stuff. But this is a real rhinestone bracelet from even earlier, I think, than this. And my grandmother's ring from earlier. And these are reproduction earrings, that sort of Art Deco style. But Art Deco in the 20s and 30s was very geometric. So that's why you see not only in accessories, but also in clothing design and patterns, and in architecture, and in furniture, in home decor. So I have a beautiful bag. Again, how it's still in this condition, I will never know. I'm going to bring all of these up with me. This is a little feather from the period with beautiful rhinestones that could just be clipped to the hair, because sometimes that's all a lady would wear. This is sheer mesh with a little tassel. Somebody brought it into the store and I bought it from her. I don't know how. It probably was never used because it looked so fragile. I don't think much could have gone in there and not damaged it. And then lastly, this was given to me by one of the vendors, and I don't know if I think this is celluloid up here. Did have a handle that came off, and it's all beaded. So make sure you come and take a look at that as well. Accessories are fun. Okay. For a pen, what is in the heel of those shoes?
Perfume.
Good guess, but it's not it. Good guess.
Cocaine.
What if a lady wanted to did you say cocaine?
Wasn't that a thing in the 20s?
What?
Cocaine.
Oh, I'm sure that it was around. I'm sure. But no, what if a lady wanted to go dancing and didn't even want to carry one of those little bags? Yeah, lipstick. Now she won a pen, so she might be willing to give somebody their. Yeah, right. Just saying. If we run out, if we don't run out, you can have another one. All right, that is lipstick, ladies. How do we not still have those shoes now? How cool is that? Because they make everything fast fashion and to be thrown away and to just be cheap. And it's I just can't imagine not loving those shoes even today. And those look like typical ballroom shoes of today. But that was 20s. There's Mary's gown. Now, you can't tell by the picture, but although it looks very plain, that whole gown was covered with Swarovski crystals, so it shimmered. So it was expensive, even with the simple silhouette. Season 4, I just put this up here because I just thought the expressions on the two of them reminded me of the other. So she's got the bob. She hadn't cut her hair yet. Mary's Men, there's a scene that I wish I could show you that Violet, I guess these guys were coming to dinner, and so Violet says, and Mary's Men, why are they coming? So Mary says, don't call them Mary's Men. And she didn't marry either of them, as we know. And this is Lady Rose again. I just wanted to show you that not every young lady cut their hair. They often kept it longer in the back so they could put it up, but they made it look like they had a bob in the front, even though they didn't. Notice that, like the Marcel wave or the finger wave, which will get more important in the 30s. And there's the married man for Edith. Did you think that he was going to come back to life at the end?
I wanted to.
I thought he might. Yeah, but he didn't, did he?
No.
Oh, well, I don't need to even talk about this, but, and, you know, Anna, again, that was a very rough, they were very good about the drama both upstairs and downstairs, because that was pretty bad. And we thought Bates was going to end up killing that guy. And there's Branson with Sibby. He's another one that they brought back at the end, and I was very glad, because remember, he went to America. And this is the recap, which I might try to get one at the end for you. Season 5, this is when you really see the 20s coming out, with the headbands and the long necklaces, and a lot of beading in the dresses. And the men are still in white tie at this point for dinner. Then the whole thing with Marigold, I didn't want to leave that out. That was distressing. And then she ended up, of course. Everybody was happy at the end. They did a good job tying it all up at the end. And there's little George, right? Yeah. Look at that outfit. And look at, I think that's Louise Brooks. So look at the similarity. Isn't that great? Beautiful fur trim. And then Isis. We won't talk about that because I was very upset being an animal lover. I think it was the name at the time when they, yeah. But they got him a puppy, didn't they? Here's the debut of Lady Rose. Very, very formal. They would wear a long gown, even if it was the 20s. They would do that because this was so formal that they would still wear a long dress. And then this was the memorial for the war. And you can see the lovely expression again on our dowager. But look, she's a little more modern looking now with embroidered collars. Speaking of embroidered collars, I have one real quickly. And you'll see Lady Rose in one, her wedding outfit. This is all hand embroidered. And this, again, was brought to me from, to the store. And it's from the 20s. And all hand embroidered. And it was part of a dress, but the dress doesn't exist anymore. It's just the collar. So be sure to come up and notice all that nice, like, soutache braiding that they did. And while I'm up here, these are spats from 1913. They say R.H. Macy's on the inside. These are for ladies. And then this piece, finally, come up and see it. This is a whole celluloid toiletry kit for ladies for travel. It's all silk velvet, and you can close it and snap it for travel. And this is ostrich skin on the outside. So make sure you take a look. And then finally, I have a man's bathing suit from the 20s. So take a gander at that, too. Okay. There's the collar I was talking about. A little different, but the same feel. And the picture hat. Isn't that gorgeous? I had to do this. It's such an anachronism. The phone when they were all dressed up in their 20s. I had to. Thought that was great. This is just kind of continuing with the story when the whole issue with, who was guilty. Was it Anna? They remember towards the end of season 5, they thought she might have been guilty. So this was the season 5 recap, which is very, very good. I don't know why. I think I might be able to open it. I'm going to try. Nope. But I will do one at the end. This one I think is a little long anyway, so you're probably better off. It's a lot of talking in this one. Okay, at the end, remember the lineup? We didn't know what was going to happen the last episode. And there's Anna. And then the final season, we're there, folks. We made it. There they all are. This is the scene when Mary was riding astride her horse instead of side saddle. And her father made a comment about being more elegant or something. The other, when she had to ride side saddle, she said, but less comfortable, something like that. So she's still in riding gear, but she's finally able to wear the joggers. Remember this lady?
Yes.
And what Mary said? She said, you're not the first person who's tried to blackmail me, and you won't be the last. I have a blouse from the 50s that has the same.
Yeah, I
You
had.
remember those? Yeah. One of those. And then the conversation. Do you remember the conversation?
Oh, yes.
That had to happen twice before anything got across? That was priceless, of Mrs. Patmore. And you want me to do it? And this, I just thought the two of them, Carson and Hughes, looked so cute out of their uniforms. I said, I got to put them together. And this, does it ever get cold on the moral high ground? Typical. That whole fight with the hospital, the change in the hospital. And Thomas was starting to become, thank you, human. We started to feel bad. The whole thing started, remember when he was trying to change himself, when he was so sick? And then when he lost his job, had to go out on these interviews. So he started to, and he says, if I can make it run for you, he says, I came here a boy and I'm left, or I'm leaving a man. Yeah. He started to like him. Well, Brian was gone. She was a terrible influence. And then let me discuss it with our pig man. Remember that Mary is now managing the estate. And I thought the pigs were cute. And look at her suit with the low belt. Isn't that beautiful? So again, she's still in a skirt, although it's a little shorter, but she's in a jacket and a shirt and tie. Is that surprising to you?
Not so much as he did.
Yeah.
No, because when women try to do a job that a man usually does, they have to look like a man.
That's for
Take it
sure.
seriously.
Remember the power suits of the 80s? Oh.
Also having to wear very high heels so that you're taller.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's crazy what we've had to do. This was that, I guess they won the award at that fair. And notice you're going to see Lady Edith's hat in a minute with her.
Can you go back and talk about Cora's jacket? Look at how gorgeous.
Oh,
that is.
sure. Yeah. That, again, probably all embroidered. It has buttons down here to close it. The detail is just, it's out of control how much we've gotten away from that. I mean, you buy something now, and unless it's couture, you probably already have loosening buttons on it.
They don't even come out of the store really.
That's what I mean.
I
It's
won't
still
mention a certain store, but you can
It's-
walk out and in the car the buttons will.
comes off, and then you get these lovely threads hanging. Yes, you have a comment?
Yes, what has become of all of these beautiful costumes?
From the show?
Yes.
They had an exhibition
Yeah.
in England. I didn't get to see it, but they've saved them. They've held on to them. Maybe it'll come here.
In the U.S. too.
Has it come here?
I think it was in Chicago or
We went to the
Cleveland.
Biltmore Mansion.
Oh.
We went to the Biltmore Mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to see them, but
Was this still the era of like people looked so good because the clothes was custom. It
Yes.
was fit for them.
Yes.
It's not off the rack. We all have to buy things off the rack.
Well, not only that, even the people who didn't have a lot of money made their clothing so that it could still fit them.
So it was.
So they still look
So
better.
you didn't feel bad about your body
No.
because everything that you own fit you perfectly.
That's right. That is an excellent point. You need a pen for that. That's an excellent point. But yes, just the way that, especially the ladies of high status, had clothing especially made. Have you heard of Charles Frederick Worth? Yes. Charles Frederick Worth was really the first male couturier in France who really, the women even in America, the 400 as we would call them, would want their clothing made by him because he was a wonderful couturier, and he also had the latest fashions from Paris and made exactly to fit the lady. This, when the women, remember, tried to take back Marigold, but I wanted you to see how the scarf and the hat band match. That's another detail you don't see anymore. You just don't. This was when Cora uncharacteristically started screaming. She came and saw them trying on her clothes, and then she apologized, remember? A coat for the wedding for Mrs. Hughes. There they are. Look at that coat. Now, I can't tell, and I don't remember, I haven't seen the scene in a while. It looks velvet to me. And I don't know if that's painted or embroidered on. Yeah. It almost looks like it's painted, doesn't it, from here?
Mary's coat, wasn't it? Mickey borrowed it? Mary?
It was Cora's, I believe, yeah. And there you all are, looking spiffy. And then Branson came back. Did anyone think Mary and Branson would end up together? I wanted that to happen, but then somebody from another audience said, he's too nice for her. And then he ended up, I think he met that nice lady down the line, so everybody was going to end up happy. But that's called a shingle, that cut, not just a straight bob. So that was very popular then, too. What scene is this? Think the last season. Wasn't that awful when he was sick? And we had no preparation. None. Oh, I almost passed out. But even he was getting better. They got him fixed up as well. Because I was afraid they were going to kill him off before the season ended. They didn't. And I just thought that outfit was just crazy, beautiful. With Branson. What was I can never remember this guy's name who she married. Henry, thank you. Henry. Yeah. Yep, that's finally the guy that she married after Matthew. And these two look like they were going to be happy, that little farmer friend there. And this, look at her collar. But I had to just put this in because it was right when Cora became, I guess, the chair of the board or whatever, and she kind of had to step down, and she was so mad. And then they also had a tour of the house the same day. So that's why she's saying, roll up, visit an actual dining room, complete with a real-life table and chairs. Kind of hard to see. She made a beautiful bride. She really, really did. I think that dress is absolutely gorgeous. Wonderful. Have you seen her, though? I mean, she looks good here, but they kind of made her look sort of homely for the show. But if you've seen one of the interviews of her, she's got her hair down and she has makeup on. She looks beautiful, much, much prettier than she looks here, Anna had her baby, of course, so they really tied everything up, didn't they? And then, of course, if reason fails, try force. Look at that embroidered collar. And she's even wearing a type of cloche hat by now. So she's even coming around. But she's still in her sort of Edwardian blouse, but that's okay. We've got to give her something. She's older. And then Mary's wedding in a much plainer dress or much simpler costume than she had been in, for sure. But much happier, I think. And then remember when they stuck up for how awful the sons were? And finally they came over and they rallied around her. So she was, and then he didn't have the thalassemia. They thought he was going to die. Yeah. And he had the lesser kind of anemia, whatever, so that was going to be okay too. That's all gorgeous, like a damask coat. And I think this looks like it might work, but I don't take it. This is just the very, very last episode that they, I don't know why I think this will work. Oh, let's It's okay. It's just when they ask you to, at Christmas, to enjoy the last episode of Downton Abbey. It's quite well done, but it's very, very short anyway. So, okay. But anyway, thank you for putting up with the video issue. I've enjoyed having all of you in the audience, and I appreciate it. That was a very unusual situation, so I'm so sorry you had to sit for so long. But hopefully I got through this quick enough so that your butts aren't too tired, not too sore. So thank you very much for coming. Any questions at all? Yes.
So I thought that Mary in season 3, which was in the aftermath of Matthew's death, that her clothes that season were stunning. And they had her, after she got out of her black mourning clothes, she wore a lot of like purples and lavenders and beautiful fabrics. And I'm just wondering if that was like a color that was popular at that time, or was that like an extension of the mourning
Yes,
period?
I think that was more half mourning. Because half mourning was like dark purples and even dove grays, that kind of thing.
The clothes in that season that she wore were gorgeous.
Yeah, and maybe they wanted to also, remember, kind of represent her coming out back into the world into color again. So they had the darker color, the nice deep colors. So, but that's a good question too. Anybody else have anything? I know we covered a lot of material in a short time. So please feel free to come up. I have cards. The store and Spirits of Fashion, which is the name of the company where I do these events. And I have pens up here, and if you didn't already get one, please come and take one. And come up and just, like I said, you can feel and touch the garments. I'm going to take out the beaded dress for you if you want to take a look at that. And all of these dresses up here that I showed you, come and feel the beading on the shoes. Okay? Thank you so much. I'm going to unroll that dress. Thank you.